Well, there you go. Saturday is in the bank. It's in the record books. The final whistle has gone at the Allianz Stadium, yet another Allianz Stadium in Turin, where Juventus play football, but where tonight Italy were playing rugby against New Zealand. These are my thoughts immediately following the game. I would love to know yours in the comments down below. Please get stuck in. And if you appreciate the content on the channel, just give the video a thumbs up. Help me spread the word. And I would love it if you'd subscribe as well. So final score, Italy 11, New Zealand 29. What are your thoughts after this one? I can guess what some of the comments are going to be. A bit of frustration if you're a Kiwi. Wasn't pretty, was it? Not kind of not a highlight way to end the year from a New Zealand perspective, but a win. And I think you'd have to say on reflection, it's been a pretty much a successful November tour. Yes, the defeat against France last week took the icing off the cake. That was only by a single point, and the wins are under the belt. From Italy's point of view, I guess the overwhelming thought, it's a little bit like Wales earlier. I mean, how much can you just be a gallant loser? Italy, heroic in defence, massive defensive energy, huge amount of attitude, so much pride and passion on display out there. But the gulf between these two teams was too big. And that is on a night when New Zealand underperformed by their high standards. I'll get into all of this. One of the big takeaways from me, this just cemented. I mean, this is nothing new. This is something I love about rugby, that this is still the case. Can't scrum, can't win. And I'm speaking that as an Englishman. Yes, an Englishman who loves the fact can't scrum, can't win. It's cost my team in the biggest matches, but it's the essence of rugby, and it creates a game for all shapes and sizes. It creates a game that has so many different ways to win. And really, I mean, when lots of other things didn't go well for New Zealand, to have that set piece to fall back on, it is a fearsome weapon. It really is. And there is an argument that that's the only reason New Zealand won the game today, because a lot of their game did not function very well. But as I say, the flip side of that coin is the reason New Zealand didn't function in the way they would have liked as an attacking force is because Italy did not let them. Because man alive, those guys are brave and relentless. And that's kind of a glass half full, glass half empty kind of attitude to it. If your glass is half empty, then New Zealand were rubbish. They weren't good. If your glass is half full, my God, Italy were brave and tough and nuggety and hard, but they can't scrum. Or against this New Zealand pack, they couldn't scrum, and it cost them the game. Yeah, it was almost like New Zealand had they do realise that this was the last game, and now they can get on the piss. I imagine there's a few of them going to Monaco tomorrow, maybe the whole squad going to Monaco for a proper knees up at the World Rugby Awards. And I've witnessed one of my most cherished rugby memories. I went to a World Rugby Awards some years ago now, 5-6 years ago, something like that. Might have been 2018 actually. It was 2018. It was the year Johnny Sexton won it. And Sia Khaleesi, Adi Savia, Peter O'Mahony, and loads of other people, but those three in particular I remember standing on tables, dancing in a nightclub together. No one had cameras or phones because so they're going to let their hair down. My point being, it was almost like New Zealand must have been letting their hair down over the last couple of nights. Have they caught that virus that France had? Because some of their players were not at the races today. It's a results business though, and Scott Robertson can rack up another result. I've got to credit the New Zealand props, already have, front row in general, pack in general, for the set piece. And for Italy, I mean, actually, I don't know who was the man of the match. I don't know whether it's done the same way in Italy as it is in other places, but it tends to be, and I don't always like this, although I understand it, that someone from the winning team always gets given the man of the match award. I would have given it to Tommaso Menoncello. He is one of the hottest young properties in world rugby. What a player. What a player. He was player of the Six Nations, out of all Six Nations. And he's been really good this November. I might have to revise my dream team for 2024 because he might well get in, you know. I think there's a strong argument that Tommaso Menoncello gets in. He was class. And Zuliani, the Italian open side, was amazing. Their line speed in general in defence. They were pushing that line about being offside all the time. It was absolutely brilliant. Let me go back to the start. Let me run through the game. Firstly, I have to acknowledge an amazing career for Sam Cane and TJ Perenara. And there were chills watching that haka. The last one that TJ Perenara was leading, and it was a Kamate classic haka, and it was a classic TJ effort leading it, and the silence in the stadium. By the way, and I was at Twickenham last weekend, and I thought the same thing. The light game, the whole show theatrical element of these occasions has been massively upped by the rugby unions, whether that was the lighting rig and setup at Twickenham. They've now got what France did at the Stade de France last week and last night, and now Italy as well. Really, really good. And the silence for the haka was, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Game got underway. Didn't love that quite so much. Although, as I say, I loved Italy's line speed, the shots they were putting in, massive defensive energy. And in the first 20 minutes, basically, New Zealand were playing rubbish by their very high standards. But as a consequence of Italy's huge defence, New Zealand had all the possession. And I was thinking, how sustainable is this? And I was expecting it to be lopsided and not nearly as competitive as it was. As I say, I was there in Lyon a year ago, 96-17. And it was 6 points to 3. Italy were up after the first 20 minutes. Scott Barrett getting a yellow card for a neck roll in amongst it. Now, just on that, this is obviously a relatively new focus for World Rugby and the officials, which I totally get. It is dangerous. We do need to get it out of the game. That was dangerous, and I would go that in this occasion there was no need for it. Absolutely no need for it from Scott Barrett's point of view. So he's only got himself to blame, whatever you think about the outcome. Just generally on a lot of these rolls sideways in rucks, whether neck, and obviously neck's got a different level of danger, but just generally, even when it's not neck, the croc roll, as they're calling it, dangerous with the potential to blow knees out and all that sort of thing. But one of the reasons that it only happens so much, and I meant to say this on a video that I did the other day about refereeing and TMOs and stuff, but I forgot to. But one of the reasons that players are doing this is because defending players are being allowed to be not supporting their own body weight, flopping onto breakdowns. Thinking of the Malcolm Marks one when Maro Itoje got done for the neck roll. It was a neck roll, but one of the reasons is because Malcolm Marks was not supporting his own body weight. I'm not picking on that decision specifically. I'm talking very generally. I wish referees would get players high enough, supporting their own weight, and then the players coming into ruck won't need to do any of these croc roll stuff to get them out of the way. So I've got mixed feelings on that whole area. I think the reason croc rolls have come in is because referees are not taking care of business in rucks, and players are just... Breakdowns are a mess. We know that, and they were in this game as well, to be fair. Right, so yeah, Cam Roy God, as he's being... We got Sam Prendergast, the Prender Goat, and Cameron Roy God. And he goes and scores. He's a try-scoring machine. He's just an X-factor player. Things happen when he's on the pitch, and it's really cool to watch. And yeah, long may he stay fit and well, because he's a player you want to see on the international stage. 30 minutes, yeah. Italy get a scrum pen on this occasion, and I made a note of that one because it was like clear Italy's scrum was creaking. Scott Barrett was still off the pitch. Italy get a scrum pen, and I thought, oh, okay, is that going to be a turnaround for the scrum? No, it wasn't. But fortunately, Italy with their rearguard action had Zuliani, had Fischetti getting turnovers, had Menoncello getting a couple of turnovers in that first half. New Zealand absolutely butchering tries left, right and centre. One lovely attack. They had shape. Satiti straight through, and it looked like Satiti was going to gas it all the way in. But the scramble defence, and I have to mention Monty Ioane as well, defensively for Italy was immense. The tackle that he put in on Will Jordan, and we know what a great finisher he is, and then to bounce straight back up to his feet and nail Satiti as well, both within 5 metres of his own line, summed up the effort in that... it summed up the first half. Inaccuracy from New Zealand, not executing and not finishing, and huge defence from Italy. But a try from Will Jordan, of course, it did click, and it was suddenly not 10-6, it was 17-6, and New Zealand, you thought, might start to accelerate away at this point. Started and finished the move with Will Jordan, absolutely clinical. When it clicked, it just didn't click very much. So it's 38 tries in 41 appearances for Will Jordan. See, and there was I, and apologies to Italy. There was I in the preview video saying that Will Jordan would get himself probably back up to a try a game. I mean, I was joking, tongue in cheek, but nevertheless. Halftime came on, and there was an advert for the Full Contact Six Nations documentary. I really hope that's good this year. I've just got a feeling it's going to be rubbish again. But fingers crossed, I'm ever hopeful. And the halftime stats, New Zealand territory possession 65-35, but much closer than New Zealand would have wanted it. Scott Robertson, I'm sure, would not have been happy with 17 points to 6. And one of the things I made a note of as this was happening was TJ ? It's like, with this being the scoreline and with New Zealand being so wasteful, is that going to affect when and how and if? Well, he was always going to get his moment, but TJ Perenara coming on, it must have, Scott Robertson might have had some replacements in mind if the score had gone a little bit more like it did in Lyon last year, but it didn't happen. And then the second half begins and New Zealand are wasteful again. Mark Talea this time. He had Satiti pass to his right, was it? I think he had a simple pass to Satiti to the right, in for a try. Tried to give it to Cody Taylor when there was more traffic, and they butchered the opportunity. And there you go. And then there was a TMO moment, and there's been a lot talked about with officials. It feels like, and is this just the internet? And is this just social media? But it's happening in WhatsApp groups and all the rest of it. There seems to be more talk about TMOs and referees than normal. I mean, there's always debate about this, and that's just part of it, isn't it? There seems to be more than normal. And people seem to be much less forgiving of decisions. So for the record, I want to speak up for the referee who overruled his TMO to say that Petruk Tuapolotu did not deserve any major sanctions for foul play. It seemed like the TMO was clamouring for some cards, and the referee said no. And there was mitigation. Petruk Tuapolotu had hinged, he got himself lower, and there was a dynamic late movement from the player that he was tackling, and that's the only reason why there may have been shoulder to head. Hey, there'll probably be now I've said that, but I'm going to talk up for the TMOs and refs. There'll probably be loads of comments going, Patrick Tuapolotu, how is that not red card head contact? I thought it was a sensible and reasonable decision from the referee, so I'm going to give them a shout. Having been critical of some decisions in other games myself, I'm just going to speak up when I see something good, and I do think, I think that was a good shout. Then Italy, this was their moment. This was Italy's moment. Ange Capuozzo, the little rugby pixie, makes his break. They're still within 9. What was it? It was 17-9, 8 points at this point. Italy, Capuozzo makes a break. New Zealand are giving up penalty after penalty after penalty, and they were cynical as well. And I can only ever applaud the rugby IQ of players that know when to give away penalties. It's like being able to kind of cheat in the most efficient way possible is part of rugby. As cynical as that sounds, that is part of the game. And I think it was Ardi Savia gave away a penalty which I'm sure he knew, I'm giving up a penalty, but it's a strategic one, and he didn't get a yellow card. And there was pen after pen after pen. Italy banging at the door, banging at the door, banging at the door. Then Anton Linnett-Brown was finally the one off feet in the tackle, gave away after a warning, gave away the penalty that got a yellow card. Italy, though, just could not punch it in, and it was massive goal line stand defence from New Zealand. It was also, and I've seen this a lot, and I've talked about this last week, in fact, England, South Africa. I talked about this with England. You're up against South Africa. Why are you trying to just go through the front door? That's playing right into their hands. And I thought Italy showed naivety in these crucial moments. Where's Italy's strength? Well, centres, back three. Where do they match up best with New Zealand? Midfield, back three. And they just kept it constantly in the forwards and just played into New Zealand's hands. New Zealand's defence was brilliant, and their maul defence was outstanding. Fair play New Zealand for that. But their maul defence has been outstanding pretty much all November. So that should not have come as a surprise to Italy. So when I saw them going for another maul, previous ones hadn't worked, and then they got a turnover, I kind of thought, well, that serves you right, Italy. What you doing? And then that was compounded by the fact that the scrum from that turnover was converted into a scrum penalty. And this is the point at which New Zealand's scrum dropped the hammer and won the game for the All Blacks. So I thought Italy were naive. I thought New Zealand were really street smart, and I thought their set piece was outstanding. And their impact from the bench as well. Asafo Armua came on and just put on a whopping shot on Ignacio Brex. The one thing I will say about it is quite funny because it happened earlier in the Wales-South Africa game. When there's a warning for a scrum against a scrum, one scrum's getting absolutely battered. It just feels, I can't help but feel sorry for the team when the ref says, time off, right, your scrum's getting battered anymore, and I'm going to give someone a card so it makes it even harder for you to scrummage, and you're already getting battered. I know I agree that that's what should be done. Persistent penalties should be upgraded to yellow cards, but it's just quite funny. You're going, you're finding it really hard. I'm going to send a prop off, and I'm going to give you one less man in the scrum. It's just quite funny. And New Zealand just turned the screw, battered them. But they were struggling to break down Italy still. And this is what I found brilliant. And from Italy's perspective, and I know they don't want the tag of gallant losers, but what Gonzalo Quesada has got with that Italian team that is so different from the team at the Rugby World Cup last year is a hard, tough mentality. And with that, they will go a long way. It's the mentality that got them winning 2 games and drawing one, their best ever performance in a Six Nations earlier this year. And it's why New Zealand found them so hard to break down. And Mark Talea got the try in the end. Bowden Barrett scored another good try, an opportunistic try in the end as well, to make it the full 4 tries for New Zealand. Tommaso Menicello totally deserved his try, by the way. He's got some wheels as well. He made a nuisance of New Zealand's ball. Brex got it back. Lovely little chicken wing offload. Menicello, wheels in try. But having complimented Italy's defence loads on this video, you also have to face up to the stark reality. That was a poor showing from New Zealand as an attacking force. The one thing you think about with New Zealand, and it has always been the case since I first started watching rugby when I was that high, New Zealand's players have core skills. They do the basics better than anyone. In rain, in hot weather, doesn't matter. They will have their basic core skills. They were not there today. For whatever reason, they were not there. But it's a W, it's a win. Scott Robertson moves on, and there's enough things I think to feel positive about from a New Zealand point of view. And yeah, they comfortably beat Italy. They beat England, narrowly lost to France, beat Ireland. I think, yeah, not perfect. Not perfect, but good enough. Tell me if you agree. That's Saturday done. The time now, looking at this, it's 20 to 11 my time. I've been sat doing nothing but watching rugby for very nearly 8 hours now, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I can't wait. In fact, I might go straight to bed so I wake up sooner and it's closer to more rugby happening. And when the rugby does happen, I'll be back here on the channel covering it. So make sure I see you on the next one.